Published by BibleviSe. Leviticus, often described as the Book of Laws, guides the Israelites in their worship and daily lives. These Leviticus chapter summaries offer a concise overview of the book's diverse yet interconnected topics. When you are done reading here, you may also want to check out our complete list of Bible chapter summaries for every book of the Bible. Book of Leviticus Summary by Chapter. Chapter 1, Prescribed Sacrifices. Leviticus opens with detailed instructions for various sacrifices, including the burnt offering, symbolizing complete dedication to God. The animal must be male and without blemish, emphasizing the importance of offering the best to God. The act of laying hands on the animal's head signifies the transfer of sin, and the burning offering represents the complete atonement for sin, with the pleasing aroma signifying God's acceptance. Chapter 2, Grain Offerings. This chapter focuses on grain offerings, voluntary acts of devotion and thanksgiving. These offerings consist of fine flour, olive oil, and frankincense, with a portion burned on the altar and the remainder given to the priests. Unlike the burnt offering, grain offerings involve no bloodletting and symbolize the dedication of one's labor and the recognition that all blessings come from God. Chapter 3, Peace Offerings. Peace offerings, detailed in Chapter 3, express gratitude and fellowship with God. They can come from the herd or flock, with specific procedures for slaughtering and dividing the animal. The priest burns a portion on the altar, the offerer gets a share, and the remainder belongs to the priests. This offering emphasizes the shared experience of communion and peace between God and the people. Chapter 4, Unintentional Sins. Chapter 4 addresses unintentional sins and the sacrifices required for atonement. Depending on the status of the sinner, priest, leader, or ordinary person, different offerings are prescribed. These offerings highlight the seriousness of all sin, even unintentional, and the need for atonement to maintain a right relationship with God. Chapter 5, Guilt Offerings. This chapter introduces guilt offerings for specific offenses like deception, touching something unclean, or swearing falsely. The offerings vary depending on the offense, and the specific instructions emphasize the importance of acknowledging and taking responsibility for wrongdoing. Chapter 6, Burnt Offerings Continued and Grain Offerings Continued. This chapter revisits burnt offerings and grain offerings, providing additional details and specific regulations for each type. It emphasizes the importance of proper procedures and the significance of offering only animals without blemish, symbolizing the dedication of the best to God. Chapter 7, Food Laws and Regulations. Chapter 7 delves into detailed food laws and regulations, outlining what animals are considered clean and unclean for consumption. It prohibits the consumption of specific animals, blood, and fat, emphasizing the concept of holiness and separation from practices considered unclean in the eyes of God. Chapter 8, Consecration of Aaron and his sons. This chapter details the ceremony consecrating Aaron and his sons as priests. It describes the elaborate clothing, anointing oil, and sacrifices involved in setting them apart for their sacred duties. The ceremony highlights the importance and solemnity of the priesthood and the intermediary role between God and the people. Chapter 9, The First Sacrifices. Chapter 9 recounts the first sacrifices offered by Aaron after his consecration. The prescribed offerings are presented, and fire miraculously consumes the sacrifice, signifying God's acceptance and the beginning of their priestly ministry. Chapter 10, Nadab and Abihu's Punishment. This chapter narrates the tragic story of Nadab and Abihu, Aaron's sons, who were struck down by fire for offering strange fire before the Lord, meaning fire not authorized for the specific sacrifice. This incident emphasizes the seriousness of adhering to the prescribed rituals and the consequences of disobedience. Chapter 11, Clean and Unclean Animals. Building on the food laws from Chapter 7, this chapter provides a comprehensive list of clean and unclean animals, both land and sea creatures. The distinction serves as a reminder of God's holiness and the importance of maintaining ritual purity. Chapter 12, Purification after Childbirth. This chapter outlines the rituals for purification after childbirth, differentiating between the birth of a son and a daughter. The offering of sacrifices signifies the restoration of ritual purity and the woman's reintegration into the community. Chapter 13, Recognizing and Dealing with Leprosy. Chapter 13 details the procedures for identifying and dealing with leprosy, a skin disease considered unclean in the ancient world. Priests play a crucial role in diagnosing and isolating individuals suspected of leprosy, aiming to prevent its spread and maintain community health. Chapter 14, Cleansing Procedures for Leprosy. This chapter outlines the cleansing procedures for individuals healed of leprosy. Specific sacrifices and rituals are prescribed, signifying their restored status and reintegration into the community after isolation. Chapter 15, Bodily Discharges and Purification. Chapter 15 addresses bodily discharges, including menstrual bleeding and seminal emissions, which were considered unclean. Detailed purification rituals are outlined for both men and women, emphasizing the importance of maintaining ritual purity in various aspects of life. Chapter 16, The Day of Atonement. This chapter focuses on the Day of Atonement, the holiest day in the Israelite calendar. The high priest performs a series of rituals involving sacrifices and offerings to cleanse the sanctuary and atone for the sins of the entire community. This emphasizes the concept of collective sin and the need for annual atonement. Chapter 17, Regulations for Sacrifices. Chapter 17 reiterates and expands on regulations for sacrifices, emphasizing that all sacrifices must be brought to the designated place of worship. This reinforces the centralized nature of Israelite worship and the importance of proper procedures for offering sacrifices. Chapter 18, Sexual Morality and Forbidden Relationships. This chapter lays out strict regulations regarding sexual morality and forbids specific relationships, including incest, homosexuality, and bestiality. These prohibitions are presented as essential for maintaining holiness and avoiding the practices of the surrounding nations. Chapter 19, Moral and Ethical Conduct. Chapter 19 expands beyond sexual morality, outlining various ethical and social guidelines. It emphasizes fair treatment of others, honesty, and compassion. It also includes regulations regarding dietary practices, clothing, and agricultural practices, aiming to create a just and ethical society. Chapter 20, Penalties for Transgressions. Chapter 20 outlines the consequences for violating the regulations established in Chapter 18, including various sexual offenses. It prescribes the death penalty for specific transgressions, reflecting the seriousness with which these offenses were viewed. Chapter 21, Priestly Purity Standards. This chapter establishes specific purity standards for priests, including physical blemishes, marital status, and family relationships. These standards ensure that only priests who meet specific criteria minister in the sanctuary and maintain ritual purity. Chapter 22, Sacrificial Animals and Offerings. Chapter 22 refines regulations for acceptable sacrificial animals, outlining specific conditions for blemishes and defects that disqualify them from being offered. It also details restrictions on who can participate in offering sacrifices, further emphasizing the importance of purity and adherence to established rituals. Chapter 23, Appointed Feasts and Observances. This chapter establishes various appointed feasts and observances throughout the year, including the Sabbath, Passover, and the Feast of Weeks. These festivals mark significant events in Israelite history and serve as opportunities for communal worship, renewal, and rejoicing. Chapter 24, Lampstand, Bread of Presence, and Blasphemy. Chapter 24 focuses on maintaining the lampstand in the tabernacle, outlining the use of pure olive oil and the placement of the bread of presence, symbolizing God's constant presence and provision for his people. It also addresses the consequences of blasphemy, highlighting the importance of revering God's name. Chapter 25, The Sabbath Year and Jubilee. This chapter introduces the concept of the Sabbath year, during which agricultural work is prohibited, and the Jubilee year, occurring every 50 years, which involves land redistribution and debt cancellation. These practices aim to ensure social justice, promote rest for the land, and provide opportunities for economic renewal. Chapter 26, Blessings and Curses. Chapter 26 outlines the potential consequences of following or disobeying God's commandments. It presents a series of blessings for obedience, including abundant harvests and victory over enemies, and conversely, curses for disobedience, such as famine, disease, and military defeat. This chapter emphasizes the importance of adhering to God's will and the potential consequences of transgression. Chapter 27, Vows and Offerings. The concluding chapter addresses vows and offerings made to God, outlining the specific regulations and procedures for fulfilling them. It clarifies different types of vows and the value assigned to offerings based on age and gender. This chapter emphasizes the importance of fulfilling vows and offerings as expressions of commitment and devotion to God.